Okay, what's going on? This Madueke thing's got legs, and I had a really sneaky feeling when the reports first came out about 3-4 weeks ago. I had a feeling it did. This isn't going to be much of a news report and more of a reaction because I've been in short. David Ornstein from Romano, along with other journalists, have confirmed that personal terms have been agreed with Noni Madueke before Arsenal have even had communication with Chelsea over the deal. Now, I think it might have been Ben Jacobs who said that in the Kepa Arrizabalaga pursuit, and there we were thinking, well done, we've got our one Chelsea player for the summer that we always get. We're feeling quite chuffed about that one. Apparently, Noni Madueke was brought up at the time, and the Club World Cup's going on at the moment, so I mean, actually, it's not really even delaying anything. Things seem to be moving ahead because the players' camp, have agreed terms on a move to Arsenal, so like a contract till 2030. Romano said that there's a bid imminent, or, okay, I've used that word, I've paraphrased a bit too much there, but Arsenal are set to make an opening bid for Noni Madueke. Guys, I don't like this at all. I really, really don't like this. For so many reasons. There's so many layers to why this isn't a good deal. Now, on Monday, the podcast with Ben will come out where we touch briefly on Noni Madueke and we chat a little bit about the player. Obviously, at the time when we recorded it, we didn't know bids were coming, but obviously we still talked about the player in some detail. And do you know, one of the things that I think one of the big points that is there for most people is why. I asked Curtis on AFTV Live, I actually don't think anyone thinks he's a terrible footballer. This isn't like, and I know Havertz has done better than people expected and did very well for us in the run-in, but when we signed Havertz, some people were legitimately saying, I don't rate this guy. I think even Madueke's biggest critics are saying, well, no, it's not that he's a bad player. No, the big question in all this is why would we allocate 40 to 50 million pounds worth of resources to a player who feels like he is solely a backup to Bukayo Saka? Because he's not an upgrade on Trossard or Martinelli on the left wing. So he's a backup to Bukayo Saka on the right wing for 40, 50 million. Now, I know we were exploring Brian and Bemo. Arsenal work in extremes. I find them hilarious. Where they could have addressed the backup to Saka for a Kudus at 35, 40 million, they're willing to potentially go to 50 on a player who can't really play other positions. Now, I know he can play on the left wing. I think some reports are saying that that's something he absolutely doesn't want to do. He doesn't want to play out there. He's a right winger. So Arsenal just trying to get strength and depth in every position. If they are, and they do all the business they have to do, then I'll be okay with it. But it does raise questions. For example, the future of Ethan Nwaneri. More reports coming out that Chelsea are interested in the player, that they'll be ready to make a move if Arsenal don't tie him down. But Hand of Arsenal's come out and said that Madueke's situation is completely separate to Noni Madueke. It might be in terms of the two transfers. It might be that one isn't affecting the other. By the way, big up to Hand of Arsenal. He's brilliant. I think I just called him Hand of Ozil. That was his old name. No, Hand of Arsenal. Big up to him. He's brilliant. But in reality, whether the two deals are tied together or not, there is an impact. Madueke is another player who'll be coming in to play minutes where Nwaneri thrives, in positions where Nwaneri thrives, and I have a real concern about that. So there could be a few things at play here on the outgoing front that we're not sure about. So let me give you a hypothetical. Nwaneri is going out on loan. He's going to sign a new deal. He's going to go out on loan and get a really good club like a Dortmund or something, where he's going to play really regularly, having signed to another 4 or 5 year deal at Arsenal. And that will kind of guarantee him some minutes there while being committed to Arsenal in the future. Maybe. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but maybe. Then, if you do all the other business you're doing, Rodrigo and Eze, then you can say, well, we've got Madueke and Saka, we've got Eze Odegaard as 10s, and then we've got Martinelli and Trossard. One of them might go, and you've got Rodrigo, and that's 2 players for each position with the kind of experience that Arteta probably wants and tends to, favour. Okay, I can see a world in which that is true. I don't like it. Nwaneri is a better footballer than Madueke, in my opinion, even today. So I'd much rather those squad minutes went to Noni over Madueke. Okay, let's come up with another situation. Let's say that actually Martinelli and Trossard are going. Why not? Trossard's not got left on his contract. Martinelli's an incredibly sellable asset. While they both have qualities I like, well, I definitely think they can all be a part of an Arsenal team that wins a Premier League title as a squad player. Maybe there's interest in both. Maybe Arsenal can recoup 100 million across those two players, and they're willing to do that. And they're willing to let them go and replenish with a Madueke, who can play on Saka's side, and a Rodrigo, who can play on the left, as can an Eze, who we're looking to sign, as can a Jesus when he's back. And maybe they feel that they've got lots of cover in those positions. So you know what? In a world in which our options for those kind of positions are Saka, Madueke, Eze, Noni, Rodrigo, maybe a Jesus when he's back. Yeah, I can live with that. And then of course you've got Erdegaard and others. Max Dalman's coming through. Yeah, okay, I could see that too. But guys, this is a lot of ifs, buts and maybes. There's a lot of, I get it if we recoup 100 million for Martinelli and Trossard. Let's therefore react to this. I think it's important to give the context of this could be happening, it could be that, because the club are simultaneously working on many, many deals, incomings and outgoings. I think it's important that we look at it and go, I don't know. That we fundamentally look at it and say all these things could be happening, and it might make more sense with more time. But right now, I don't really get it. I'll get to my concerns in a sec about what it might prevent us doing. But I think it's important we look at all those what ifs. What if he's being asked to play a different position? I mean, Arteta's done that before. What if he's seen as his quality being ready as a starting left winger? That concerns me. But maybe that's the kind of player he wants out on the left. A left footer that can go on the outside more easily. I don't know. So look, I've tried to do all the what ifs. But do you know my main concern in all this is that Arsenal at the end of the window don't do a piece of business they absolutely should do because 40-50 million went on Madueke. It's how I felt about Kudus. We didn't do Kudus because 65 million went on Havertz. Now, look, that aged probably quite well for Arsenal. Some will disagree. I think I disagree. But that probably aged quite well because ultimately Havertz became a starting striker in what became our best season since we won the title, hitting 89 points, scoring the most goals ever in a Premier League campaign, all the rest. So a lot of people might say, well, no, that aged well. There was a void to be filled. We needed a striker. And then second half of the season, scored goals. Fine, okay. But ultimately, we didn't sign a quality footballer, Mohamed Kudus, because so much in terms of investment went on a player that I'm not convinced a year on from signing him, we really wanted in our starting 11. And when I look at Noni Madueke, I really fear that this gets in the way of doing an Eze deal, that this gets in the way of doing a Rodrigo deal. Now, every reporter out there is saying they're not linked. I find that really hard to believe. And again, I have to keep asking, is Berta using this to bring down Palace in the Eze pursuit? Is he using this? But I don't think he is. I think Arsenal have gone from not wanting an attacker for years and years, and it driving me absolutely crazy, to us suddenly doing a Chelsea wanting to hoard them. Madueke, Eze, Rodrigo, Gyökeres or Sesko, Arsenal are actively pursuing all four of those deals, and I don't see how they all fit. Now, ultimately, if we get them all, I'm not going to complain, people. But when I say how they all fit, I don't mean in terms of the squad. I mean in terms of a transfer window we can genuinely pull off. That is my biggest fear in all this. That it's going to stop us doing the business we absolutely should do. But I have to stress one more time, if he gets in the way of Ethan Nwaneri's development in any way, shape or form, I'm going to have real concerns about that. I think today Ethan Nwaneri is the better footballer. Now, maybe that's harsh. Look, Madueke was starting week in, week out, on the right and on the left. By the way, I thought he looked good on the left. For a team that got Champions League football, that won the Conference League, that is playing at the Club World Cup now, he's not a bad footballer. Of course he's not. No one is saying that. But there's real concern about what it's going to take for Arsenal to do this deal. And I don't like it. But I will lose my head once I've seen all the dominoes fall in place and we get a bigger picture of what's going on. Right now, I'm just looking at this going, Why? Hopefully the Cronkies have opened some £400 million war chest, and Arsenal are just saying, let's address everything we possibly can. Something tells me that's not what's happening.